Hello everyone, welcome back to my computer project. I haven't actually got anything completely built this week. I started work on the power supply, but then I built the rectifier bit, and then I realised I didn't have the right resistors for the regulator boards. So yeah, so I'm having to wait for them. They should be turning up today, but they didn't arrive early, so I wasn't able to quickly bodge them together. So I decided to do a slightly different video because I have been asked this question of how many parts I'm actually using, and I haven't been keeping track. So I've decided to start keeping track, and yesterday I went through and counted uh, all the components. I couldn't actually take some of these bits apart too easily because they're wire wrapped now, and I didn't want to do that again. But some of it's pretty obvious. There's maybe like one or two component count out. I don't know, but it's either way I round up. So I'm going to go through each. Like I've laid it out per stack, basically per module. So I'm going to start with this, which I'm calling the 16 line to 7 segment ROM. So this is what takes 0 to 16 and turns it into a code that goes to the 7 segment display. So this has no LEDs. I plan to add LEDs to it just to light it up and make it look like it's actually working, actually doing something. It has 76 diodes. So it's got the most diodes in it out of all the other stacks, and that's simply because it's a ROM. It won't have the most forever, so probably in the future, the what is it called? The instruction ROM will have more memory than that. Yeah, well, simply because it would have more lines going into it probably, and definitely more lines going out. It has 21 resistors, so these are just these ones on top. See, like when I made this has had like 2 or 3 retrofits and fixes to get it to work properly. It probably doesn't need 21 resistors, and that is actually rounded down because there's some on the bottom as well, which they're just the same, doing the same thing as the ones on the top. So they are essentially a single transistor, it's just lowering the value. So I'm not counting the ones on the bottom because they're effectively not doing anything. Or they're not doing anything that couldn't be done with one transistor, if you see what I mean. And transistors, it's got 7. Those are just for the outputs, they're just little buffers. Again, I don't need them, but I had limited knowledge at the time when I made it, and yeah, retrofits and stuff. So I think the next one is the decoder here, or the demultiplexer. Yeah, the 4 to 16 demultiplexer. Again, no LEDs. This has no diodes. Has 100 resistors. So this is actually pretty easy to add up because these are all the same board. So it was just a matter of counting the resistors and transistors on one of them and just multiplying it by 5. Oh, pardon me. And it's got 70 transistors. So that's the stack in total. Next is going to be this, which is the little display clock thing. Yeah, the display switcher. Has 2 LEDs, just for the clock. 2 diodes. So these diodes are part of the astable multivibrator, but what they do is they do it in they set it up in such a way that you don't get the charging and discharging arc you get from the capacitors. You just get 5 volts off, 5 volts off. There may be a little bit of decharge, who knows, but yeah, it works. Resistors, it has 50 resistors and 40 transistors and 4 caps, though yeah, it has 4 caps, but effectively only 2 of them are used at the moment, and yeah, 2 of them are I don't know. It's the only thing with capacitors, isn't it, at the moment, so I'm just going to count 4, but it's effectively 2. Next will be the output register. So this has 8 LEDs, they're down on the side here, and they just show you what's in the register at the moment. 32 diodes, those will be for the actual memory. It's like the third board down here, you can't see it, I'm afraid. It's in my older videos. Resistors has 144. Most of those are going to be these tri-state buffers. As you can see, it has 16 in a row just there, and there's like another 16 odd there. I don't know, quite a lot. 96 transistors and 0 capacitors. The ALU, the adder, that's this big chunky monkey. This has 16 LEDs. They're on the actual adder boards themselves. They just have the sum and the carry. It has 32 diodes. They're just on this top board here. This is the XOR board to allow subtraction. 192 resistors, 168 transistors, and 0 capacitors. Yeah, so that's still not totally finished. So that'll grow, but I'll probably just rewrite the sheet at that point. Next is the ALU, the tri-state buffer. So this is what handles the output of the ALU. At the moment it is just the tri-state, there's no multiplex or anything like that. Yeah, this has 0 LEDs, 0 diodes, 88 resistors, 56 transistors. And so that will be similar count to what's on here, but I think I've done these ones slightly better than the tri-state on that. Also, the tri-state on this isn't actually used yet, so a bit redundant, but it could be used. The 7-segment display itself over here, it's not actually in shot. Yeah, this little fella. That's got 42 diodes because it has the 7 segments. It's got 3 LEDs per segment. 0 diodes, 32 resistors, 17 transistors. Let's just shift that back over. Next is... I just did that fella. Okay, the front panel. Again, I can't really get this in shot easily without moving the camera about. But yeah, it's just counting the little LEDs. It's not counting the switches or the meters here. Again, the fans aren't counted either. So a couple of things not counted. But yeah, the front panel has 16 LEDs and 16 resistors. Yeah, those are just for the lights on the front. The front panel buffer, that's this thing down here, that has 24 resistors, 16 transistors, and 0 of everything else. And that's it. That's it for each component. In total, this comes to 84 LEDs, 142 diodes, 667 resistors, 470 transistors, and 4 capacitors. So, yeah, I think that's coming along. And it gives me an idea now of how many components I might actually have in the final build. Now, I think doing like the RAM alone, like 16 bytes of RAM alone, would be more than all of this put together. And I'm still working on how to implement that. I mean, writing to memory is easy. You know, addressing it, writing to it, that's all easy, that's all fine. It's reading it back which is difficult, and you know, without using too much circuitry. Because in my head at the moment, the only way I can think of reading it is just doubling all the circuitry, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've got for now. I'll be keeping track of this more often now. So every time I add something to here, I will add it up and we'll keep a running total. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.